Everyone, the NFL schedule is here, which means Howard and I are going to talk to you on a Wednesday night at 8:18 p.m. Hello, everybody. Matt Bove, Howard Simon. I don't know if we want to call this a special edition of Leading the Charge. This is more just two guys talking about the schedule and trying to make sense of it all. So, Howard, we've been communicating back and forth today. I know there's been a lot of leaks. A lot of people have kind of seen pieces or parts of the schedule before it actually came out. But now that it's actually out, what do you think? What's your biggest takeaway from the 2024 Buffalo Bills schedule?
In terms of, I don't know, there's a mixture, right? There's no perfect schedule. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I think there are two really tough stretches, Matt, that they're going to deal with. One is because of a bunch of night games, and the other is opponent related later in the season. So that stood out. The heavy road and night schedule in the first month and a half of the season stands out to me. Love the opener, but look what happens after that. Night game in week 2, night game in week 3, night game in week 4, night game in week 6. So 4 night games inside the first 6 weeks of the season, that stands out. And they're night games against good opponents. I mean, on paper, the weakest team is the Jets, but they might be better with a full, healthy Aaron Rodgers. So that stands out to me, the night games and the 3 straight road games. Do not like 3 straight road games. And I thought the league was trying to avoid that. The Bills haven't had 3 straight on the road since 2015. Not a fan of that because it's almost impossible to go unbeaten and win all 3 games.
Yeah, I think though for me, if they were going to do the 3 straight road games, I at least like that it's earlier in the year. You should be
Yeah.
healthier,
Yep.
technically, theoretically. I also like that because of this, at least on the back end for the third one, you get an extra day's rest because it is a Monday Night Football game. But then, of course, that ends up hurting you with week 6 because then week 7, because then it's one less day that you have to get ready for. I
Right.
think because they have the extra game on the road this year, it just feels like they had to do that somewhere. I am just a little bit surprised, like especially the way it falls together with week 16 and week 17 being back to back. It's like, well, couldn't you have moved one of those road games and given yourself a little bit more wiggle room? I mean, this is one of those situations where after September 23rd, the Bills go an entire month until they are back home in Western New
Yeah.
York, which is just weird. I mean,
Right.
you get 2 games in September, which is great, but then you wait a month and then you kind of get let's say 3 out of the next 5 that are home. That beginning part of the schedule to me is the gauntlet. It's something
Yeah.
that I'm just like, you should beat the Cardinals, right? It's the home opener. You better beat the Cardinals, but I don't know what to expect from Miami. I don't know what to expect from the Jags. I think the Ravens are going to be great. I think the Texans are going to be great. And I think the Jets could be really, really dangerous. So to me, those are 6 games. It's like, I think immediately you got to win 3. You got to split them, right?
Yeah, I think so. And look, who knows? The way that the the Jacksonville Jaguars fell apart last year.
Yeah.
Maybe they take a step back, right? I think we all expect Houston to be really good. You're right about Baltimore. Miami. I don't know. I spent a good chunk of the season really, I guess in hindsight, overvaluing Miami. I mean, until they actually beat winning teams, really
Yeah.
good teams, they have a lot to, I'm not sure how much I should respect them, Matt. We know Josh eats them up. We know Tua's record against the Bills.
Uh-huh.
The game they lost 2 years ago, Miami was lucky. So I look at that and I'm like, well, Miami's got a lot to prove. But there's you don't have a division home game until week 9. Not a fan of that. The Bills Miami game, one Bills Miami game should have been at the end of the schedule. Both Bills Miami games are done by week 9. Why?
Mhm.
That doesn't make any sense. Why are you throwing 2 Patriot games in the final 3 weeks of the season and you have Bills Dolphins, which could be an AFC East showdown like last year, and they don't play after week 9?
I wonder if they don't think the Bills are going to win the division. I wonder if they think that the race till the end of the season is going to be the Jets and the Dolphins and not the Bills.
I didn't see their schedules, Matt, how the Jets Dolphins, if they're playing in that late stretch.
I think they play the last game of the season against each other. I believe so. I mean, that would make sense given the Bills playing the Patriots. So it would make sense that they're also playing the team in the division. So,
Right.
I think that given what the schedule is, if you take advantage of the beginning of it, if you can at least tread water, then you should be able to at least go on a little bit of a run. But that's the thing about the schedule as a whole. Like, it's hard. there's really not any cakewalks in this schedule. I mean, because I mean, besides, it's a bit concerning. The Patriots and then the Cardinals are probably the quote easiest games on the schedule. And I mean, the Cardinals have at least a decent quarterback, and we don't know what to expect out of the Patriots this year with a new coach. That would be a team that I think you would have wanted to get early, not late, because you want to catch Drake May if he is the one who's playing early, or if it's not him, then you get to go against like Jacoby Brissett, and I think you would feel pretty good about that. This is a schedule of this is what I keep thinking about. It is incredible how different this schedule is compared to what the Dolphins have and what the Jets have because they won that game in week 18. And I know that that set them up for a chance this year that they didn't take advantage of. But man, would it be different if they didn't have to play the Ravens and they had to play the Browns instead, or instead of having to play, some of those other first place crossover games, the Lions.
Well, Houston is now one of those, right? Houston won the AFC South.
So their schedule is tough. Is there anything else that immediately jumped out to you once you finally saw the finalized thing published?
Yeah. By the way, I want to backtrack. So you're right. You would look at it on paper and think the league thinks it's going to be Miami and the Jets for the AFC East because their two games are in the final 3 weeks of the season. They play on December 8th and they play in week 18. And that's one of those TBD games that they could flex into like they did with the Bills Dolphins in week 18 last year. So that's weird, Matt, that you look at it. The Bills are playing the Patriots 2 of those 3 games, and it's the Jets and Miami and those other the other matchup in those 2 or 3 game stretch. So they almost must think that it's Miami and the Jets for the division in week 18, and we're going to put that one at night.
Or they think that they're just going to beat up each other and that maybe they're fighting for a wild card spot and that the Bills could win the division, and they want to make it interesting with those guys as opposed to having the Bills and Dolphins play again like they did last year. And maybe they're just not sold on the Jets because of the Aaron Rodgers injury stuff. Maybe that, I mean, because they do play the Jets the second last week of the year, so that game could certainly be meaningful at the end. Is there any one game in particular that you're really looking forward to? Let me exclude here the Kansas City Chiefs. Are there any games on the schedule where you're like, okay, that's the one I'm most excited about?
By the way, to answer the question, which I didn't answer, the other stretch of the schedule, I think that's tough. And it kind of looks like last year in that same area. If you look at the schedule, they play Kansas City at home, and then they have the bye. And out of the bye, they have San Francisco. I'm not sure what to make of the Rams, but they still have a good quarterback. They've got a good coach. It's a trip out west. And then you have a really good Detroit team. So you look at that stretch of 4, Chiefs, Niners, Rams, Lions, and it kind of reminds me of what happened last year, right? They played the Eagles. They went into the bye. They came out with Kansas City and Dallas, and they went to L.A. to play the Chargers. That turned out not to be the game we thought it was going to be. So that's another that tough stretch of the schedule is in the beginning, but don't ignore that KC, San Francisco, trip to L.A., road game in Detroit stretch. I love the final 3 games, though. Okay, if they're in good shape going into those final 3 games, they should beat New England twice. And who knows? The Jets are the Jets. The Jets might be doing Jetsy things and be out of this whole thing by week 17. So I like the end, Matt, because I think they can make a good push there. The one game, obviously, is to me, is Bills Houston. I'm stunned that's a Sunday 1:00 game. I thought for sure that and the game home against Miami would either be in the 4:25 window or prime time. I thought Bills Houston with Diggs would be played up as a big storyline.
Yeah, that one surprised me a little bit that one wasn't. And the Jags game being a primetime game was also a bit surprising to me. I think that was just okay, well, we want to make sure we get the Bills in these windows, and maybe the Jags, I haven't seen their schedule yet, but maybe they don't have as many. So it was like, okay, well, this feels like the perfect marriage there. Monday Night Football, it's a doubleheader because their game is at 7:30, and then I believe the Bengals play later in the evening on that same Monday night. So it's not even like a true standalone primetime game. It's a half primetime game because there's another game that's going on at the exact same time. It's funny because we know all the opponents before any of this happens. But then when you put the puzzle all together, I feel like it can kind of change your perception of the opponents, of the schedule, of the Bills' chances. Did any of that happen to you? Do you feel any more or less confident about the Bills moving forward because of the schedule?
No, not really. I mean, I'm not at liberty to divulge what I think the Bills' record will be, Matt. I'm contractually obligated, of course, not to tell you that. But no, it wouldn't. I don't think it'll change how I pick things. Like I said, I think it's the road stretch is tough, but hey, we know they can win in Miami. I know it's a short week for both teams, but if you're going to have a short week and have a road trip in Miami in a short week, you might as well do it in week 2 after what I think is going to be a fairly easy home opening win over Arizona. So I'm okay with that. But man, that stretch at Baltimore, at Houston, and who knows, again, at the Jets, what that turns out to be, that's tough. There's going to be at least one, if not 2 losses in there. But the overall schedule and how it falls, I don't think it really affects what I think they're going to do this season. I wouldn't say like I had X number of wins and all of a sudden I'm taking away a couple or I'm adding a couple because how it fell out. Does it change it for you?
No, it doesn't change it for me because I keep thinking back to, even though I know the team looks very different, I don't think all the new faces is a bad thing for the Bills this year. I think the youth movement might actually end up helping them, especially in the second half of the season. But I keep thinking back to that point when the Bills went to Philadelphia last year, lost that overtime game, and it felt like things for this team were helpless. Then the bye week happens, and they come back and they just go boom, 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 boom. They win a bunch of games that a lot of people thought they had no business even competing in. They went on the road to Kansas City. They knocked the doors off of Dallas. And it was just like, okay, well, what's up with this team? So I think they will win games that people don't anticipate them winning. They'll also lose games that they should probably win. Like they could absolutely go and lose to the Colts, or they could absolutely go and lose like one of those weird games in the middle of the season, but then come back and beat the Lions and beat the Chiefs again at home. And the one thing that I will say about that middle part of the schedule that's pretty tricky, the Chiefs is at home. The 49ers is at home. Those games, I feel like those games are coin flips, but because you get them at home, you got to at least like your chances. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen from now until then, but if the opening lines were out right now, I bet the Bills are marginal favorites in both of those games. And I mean, they're going to be favorites. There's 17 games. They're going to be favorites in 13 or 14 of them. So it's not like that, Vegas thinks they're going away.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, there's nothing. I didn't like the road games. Honestly, I really thought there would be that. I thought they'd get the 6 night games. I thought they'd get the max. They get 5. Last year they had 6 on the schedule, and then a 7th was flexed. There's a ton. I'm Sunday 1:00 guy. There's 7 Sunday 1:00 games, so I'm thrilled with that. I hate to be anti-holiday guy, but I never like them playing on Thanksgiving. They're not playing on Thanksgiving or Christmas, so that's good, especially for someone like you who doesn't want to be away from your daughter on a holiday. So
yeah,
I'm good with a lot of stuff in the schedule. The biggest beef I have, I guess, would be the 3 straight road games and a whole bunch of night games in there at the start. That's a really difficult first 6 weeks, I think.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that. What do you make of the 1:00 games? Because there are more of them. Is this once again, this is a comment David posted, like the team is getting faded. Like basically the league is fading the Bills, thinking that they won't be as good. If you just look at the schedule and the time slots that they play, it's less primetime games than last year. It's more 1:00 games than last year. And it's fewer 4:25 in that kind of prime afternoon window. But I kind of love it, though. I just think that we've been spoiled the last couple of years, and let's get back to these Sunday afternoon games. People love those. They're so much more convenient.
Yeah, look, it's purely selfish. I love Sunday 1:00. I'm not going to complain. But if you look at it, so last year they had 6 night games and 4 in the 4:25 window. So 10 standalone games, right? And then that's not including the finale in Miami. If you look at it this year, Matt, 5 night games, 3 4:25s. So from 10 to 8. Now, that's not a huge drop. I mean, there's still 8 standalone games. That's basically half the schedule. To me, the 2 surprises, you knew Arizona, the 2 New England games, Tennessee and Indy, those you could have locked those in for 1:00. The 2 games that I thought weren't 1:00 were the Miami and Houston games. I thought those both would have been in one of the standalone windows. So I thought at least 5 of 1:00 games for them. It's just those other 2 that I didn't anticipate, but I'm good with 1:00.
For you, is there anything else that specifically stands out with the schedule, whether it be an opponent, where they ended up, a game that you thought would be in prime time that wasn't? Is there anything that you immediately were drawn to when you saw it all kind of pieced together?
Yeah, the Miami game. The 2 might. Well, we knew about the week 2 game because that was out, so we knew that was happening. And by the way, I'm good with the game in Miami being at night. Remember 2 years ago, you were probably down there when those guys were roasting the sideline. Guys were puking at halftime in the locker room. I'm good playing a night game. So maybe they won't have to worry about, conditioning and guys having heat stroke on the sideline. So I like that. No, I'm trying to think what else. The only other surprise, like I said, I thought Houston, I don't like the Bills Dolphins games being done by week 9. It doesn't make any sense for me. I know your point about, well, maybe they think it's going to be Miami and the Jets. It's still a really good rivalry. It's still, say what you want about Tua, but whatever. He's a good quarterback. It's still a really important game. And to me, to bury those in the first half, both of them in the first half of the season, I don't like that. They don't get a division home game until week 9. I don't know. That might be something to be a little annoyed by, but that's it. I checked. The first thing I thought of is how many night games and where are the 2 Miami games. That's the first 2 things that we used to do that with New England, right? Schedule come out. Where are the 2 Patriots games? For me, it was where are the 2 Dolphins games, and I thought one should have been at the back end.
The one thing that's weird to me, there's not much home field advantage as far as what the weather is going to be like, as far as I'm concerned. Week 13, you've got the Niners coming into town for Sunday Night Football, but that's December 1st. So that could be anything. That could be snowy, but that could also be like 40 degrees and totally fine. But after that, I mean, you go back-to-back road games indoors at LA, at Detroit, but then New England comes here. It's not like they're not used to the same weather. The Jets come here. Once again, they're used to it. And then you go out to New England. So it doesn't feel like we're going to really get, I don't know, like the Miami situation, or a couple of years ago, the Falcons came here and that was in the snow, or the Jags come here and they're in the snow. I feel like the Bills got a little bit robbed there.
Well, if you look at it, the 3 warmest weather teams on the home schedule, right, are Arizona, Jacksonville, and Miami. Week 1, week 3, week 9.
Yeah.
So that's I didn't think about it. It's a good point to make. I don't necessarily think about that stuff with Miami. I do, but I think it can be a little bit overblown. But yeah, the warm weather teams are not coming here after week 9.
Do you think the less primetime games is indicative of anything from the league? Or do you think it's just like, do you think there's Bills fatigue? Or do you think that, hey, they still got 5 primetime games, which is a lot?
It is a lot. I do think, honestly, like I said, I thought they would have 10 standalone games. I thought 6 night, 425. So I think the drop of 2, there's something to that. It's still Josh Allen, and he brings eyes. He is exciting. That's a guy you want in prime time. So it could be a little bit of, they might be looking at it. The networks might be looking at it going, I don't know that it's fatigue. You would know that better than I would, because you're more up on TV ratings than I am. It might be they looked at it and thought they traded Diggs, Poyer's gone, whatever, all the stuff, Trey White, all the moves they made as a mini reset, and thought they might take a little step back. So we don't need to max out on their night games.
My last question for you is, as we wrap this up, as you go to bed tonight, as you wake up again tomorrow and pick the Bills, what is the biggest, I guess, thing that you'll think about with the schedule? What's the first thing tomorrow that you're going to be like, okay, that's the deal with the schedule, or the biggest takeaway, I guess, is the easiest way of saying this, that you have from the schedule?
I hate to say don't get buried, because you wouldn't be out of the race, but don't get buried through the first 6 weeks.
Yeah,
they're not, it's not going to happen, Matt. What, like, you look at the first 6 weeks, you tell me, I know the worst case scenario would be 0-6. What is, like, this is the worst case scenario in your eyes? 2-4?
Yeah, I think 2-4. I think 2-4 is the worst case, but I also think, as I look at it, it's funny because I also think that it's a gauntlet. I also think there is a very realistic chance they win their first 3 games. They absolutely should. Sure. I mean, they're going to be favored in all 3 of those games. And then at that point, just like that, you could snap your fingers. If you win one of your next 3, all of a sudden you're 4-2, and you're going into a part of this. You're going into a part of the schedule where you should be able to stack some wins. So for me, it's like, you got to kick the crap out of Arizona and kind of make a statement. You're going to go into Miami and do what you do to them basically every single year. And then the Jags are this weird team that's had your number. But them coming here, like, I just think that that's another game that you should win.
Yep.
And that, I mean, I also watched this team go into Baltimore in week 4 a few years ago and win. So I wouldn't rule that out. The Houston thing, I like the Texans a lot, but I don't think they're untouchable. And I don't even know if it's a safe bet that Aaron Rodgers is still playing in week 6. I have no idea what to expect with him.
So let me flip it around because you're helping me pick the Bills now. I'm just going to steal your picks. So what's your best case scenario? Go through those 6 games. Man, I would be thrilled if they can go
4-2 would be great. 5-1 is the best case scenario. I don't see a world where they just rattle off 6 wins. I think it's more likely that they go 4-2 than 2-4. That's the one thing I will say, which I guess gives me at least a little bit of optimism that maybe the floor is really 3-3 and it's not 2-4, because that wouldn't, put them out of it completely, but it would be tough because, I mean, even these years when it's felt like they've been out of it, they've still had either 500 records or winning records. They lost to the Eagles. Pretty sure they were 6-6. It's not like they were 2-4. I don't even know if I don't even know, besides losing the first game, if at any point during this playoff stretch, if they've ever been below 500.
Ooh, that's a good question.
I can't think of a time. I mean, sure, losing the first game, but in 2019, you know what I mean? In 2019, they lose in 2019, they win. In 2020, they win. In 2021, they open at home against the Steelers. They lose, but then they go on the road and they beat the Dolphins, and then they win again the next week. And then besides that, they've won. Last year, they lose the opener to the Jets, but then they win week 2 and then they stack wins. So I don't know, besides losing the opener, if they've ever been below 500 at really any point since 2019.
No, you're right. Last time would have been 2018 when they opened up 0-2. That would have been Josh's rookie year, right? Yeah. So that's the last time they were below 500. So I think, and obviously, if they go 4-2, again, if you want to play around with the schedule, if you get through that 4-2, and you're looking at a really strong shot at least 7 and no worse than 7-3 through the first 10 games, with the Chiefs coming in here the week before the bye. That's a good spot to be in.
Yeah, but we'll see that's why they play the games, right? All right. Howard is going to pick the Bills tomorrow morning on WGR. That will be must listen. I will be taking my dog on a walk and listening to you pick the Bills. And the next time we talk, the Bills will make some massive trade for a wide receiver or edge rusher, because that's what always happens.
I can't believe you didn't text me about Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
No, I didn't text you about him. But we'll get you back soon. Don't you worry.
Listen, so you got Channel 7's are you going to get those Monday Night Football games, or are those ESPN?
That's what we're trying to figure out right now. We're trying to figure out, do we get the Monday Night Football games simulcast locally? Because those aren't on ABC nationally. So it's like, does it defer? Somebody locally will get them. Hopefully it's us. And then the same thing with the Amazon game, because the Amazon game will go to one of the local affiliates, and we will certainly be trying to do that. Just look at the window, though. They go week 1, ho-hum, 1:00 game, but then it's prime time, week off, prime time. 4 of their first 6 games are in prime time, and then they don't have another one until the 49ers.
That's right. One night game over the last 11 games. I'm very okay with that.
Thrilled with that. Yeah. And maybe that changes, right? Like that Jets game in week 17 could potentially get moved somewhere if Patriots it needs to.
I mean, that Patriots game in week 18 is not getting flexed.
No, they should just flip them. It should be just like, all right, Jets, we're going to move you to week 18, and we're going to move the Patriots that way. Anything you want to add? Anything we didn't talk on?
Which road trip is the best? Now you know where they fall in the schedule. I don't know if that affects what I know a lot of fans, I think, are talking about going to Seattle. I think that's going to be that's like the big trip for Bills fans this year.
What if I told you that I already have flights booked to Miami, Houston, Seattle, Baltimore, and Indianapolis?
Well, that's for work. I'm talking about if you were a fan and you could pick, now you know the schedule. Like a lot of people sometimes would go, I want Miami on the road in December so I can go down for a few days and enjoy the warmth. Mm-hmm. As you look at it now, which road game, where it is on the schedule, is the trip?
Seattle for me, because I have never done Western Canada. So we are going to leave Thursday morning, and we are going to try and drive up to Vancouver for a day. And we're going to do Vancouver, which sounds amazing because I've never done that. I've been to Seattle, which is an incredible place. And I will say the flights to Seattle were not as crazy expensive as I thought they would be. Now they've probably jumped up, which is why I booked everything when I did. But I mean, I think I paid like $350 round trip for
Oh,
Seattle, which really is not bad at all. LA is in December. So if you're somebody who wants to go somewhere warm when it's cold here, that is
yeah,
certainly an option. They've been there a lot. There's certainly a lot to do in LA. It does stink, though, that Miami is week 2 because, I mean,
right.
last year it was week 18. So it was okay, let's take a little mini vacation. Let's go to Miami. Baltimore being early is cool because Baltimore on Sunday Night
Nice.
Football early in September will be a really, really cool vibe. And I feel the
Mhm.
same way about Monday Night Football in New York because I'm
Right.
pretty sure that's a holiday. I'm pretty sure the Monday is a holiday that
Oh,
falls on.
okay.
It's
Okay.
a long weekend. I don't remember which one it is, but that would be one less day people have to, if you want to go and take that day, then maybe you can just take off the Tuesday and you can go make a trip out of it to go to New York for the weekend.
You got to call the NHL and tell the NHL to have the Sabres play in Seattle on Saturday and then Vancouver on Monday.
That would be nice, but chances are because they start in Prague, then they're
Oh,
going to
that's
come then they're going to come back. So I think the Prague games are the days before Houston. I think it's like October
uh,
4th and 5th, and then they play the Texans. Then I would imagine they come back, probably have like a week off to get reacclimated and then
yeah.
probably play some home games. So I would imagine that the Western Canada trip wouldn't be until later.
Okay. All right. Well,
But
it was a
whatever.
good idea. Yeah.
It was a good try. It was a good try.
Yeah. I'm
All
sorry.
right,
Just keep
Howard,
good trips.
thank you so much for doing this. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. It's always fun
Anytime.
chatting with you. I was,
Yeah.
looking forward to this all day, and I'm already looking forward to picking the Bills tomorrow. It's like one of my favorite segments ever. So I'm
You want
going to
to
be
do it?
excited for that. What was that?
Do you want to do it?
No, that I don't think people. I think people would absolutely throw a fit if I did
We
it and
have
not
Ghost
you.
Riders. There's Ghost Riders for books. Why can't you give me the picks and I'll throw my name on it?
Maybe one week we will do that. Maybe I'll slide you a little post-it note virtually and I'll say, here's all the picks that I'm making. I'm interested because I feel like you're a little down. I'm just reading you right now. I feel like you're a little down on them, but not as much as some people. Like don't react to this. I think tomorrow you will pick them to go 10-7. That is my
Do you?
guess. That's my guess.
Well, if I was going to do that, now I almost have to change it just so it doesn't look like you're right.
Yeah, but that's great for me because then either you're a homer and you go to 11-6 and people are like, "Oh my gosh," or you pick them at 9-8 and people
Oh, really?
absolutely obliterate you on social media.
Yeah, right.
It's a
By the
win.
way,
It's a win-win.
Homer with 11-6. If I was a Homer, they would be talking like 14-3.
That's true. That's true.
11 and
I'm not
6 people would be upset probably.
I'm not kidding you. I still remember the day you picked them to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
However many years ago it was, I was on a walk in my neighborhood. I'm listening live on the app, got the dog out, and you're like, I'm picking them to win the Super Bowl. And I remember Jeremy going, like, what? And I was just like, as just a person who listens, I was just like, and covers the team. I was, oh my God. Oh my God.
That's why this is so stupid. Because people actually believe when it comes out of my mouth that it can actually really happen.
Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh. All right, Howard, thank you for doing this. I'll talk to you again soon. All right, buddy.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Nice to see you.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for watching.